So what happens is I walk in, I throw the towel, I run out, I slam the door closed, I run out, I'm naked. And I grab another towel, wrap it around me, and I go into the players' locker room, and because I know he's in there, and I said, Peanut! And I see him standing there, and you could tell he knows I'm pissed off, and I look like that, and he was telling everybody what they had done.
All right, but before we get to Coach Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, I want to talk to you guys about the beer sponsor of this show. You know what it is. It's the great tasting, less filling Miller Lite. From family gatherings to holiday parties with friends, this season is for enjoying time with the most important people in your life. Make the holidays even better with Miller Lite, the great tasting light beer for people who love beer. It tastes like Miller time. The weather has flipped. We're into winter. That means you're just storing those Miller Lights outside. You got your outside refrigerator making them ice cold, perfect temperature. It's the great taste you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just a great beer for people who like beer. Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than the other light beers. Just simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee notes, flavors, and that iconic golden color. We'll be at the tailgate over probably the South Lot this weekend, drinking Miller Lights, toasting football, one last hurrah. They taste better outside. They taste like football season. You want to be doing Miller Lite. So making memories at year-end gatherings tastes like Miller time. Go to MillerLite.com/midshow to find delivery options near you. But if we're being honest, this is Miller Lite we're talking about. This is Chicago we're talking about. You can find Miller Lite pretty much at any store that sells beer. It always tastes like Miller time, so celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer with more taste. Again, go to MillerLite.com/midshow to find those delivery options near you. And now to Coach Ron Rivera.
Yeah, but see, you know what's happened is, this should be on the air. I hope.
Yeah. Let it rip.
Okay. Well, I mean, really what's happening is it's like back in the day, and I learned this because of John Madden. And I told the story this morning. I was 13-3 in games decided by 6 points or less. Okay. And what happened in my first 2 years was I was going by the book. Okay. I punted when you should punt, kicked the field goal when you should kick the field goal. Okay. And so I was talking to Coach Madden about it, and he said, Ron, why would you do that? I said, well, I kicked the field goal. We went up by 6. And he said, well, what happened? I said, well, they got the ball, drove down, scored, beat us by 1. He said, exactly. He said, what could you have done differently? I said, well, could have gone for it. And it was at that instant in this conversation made me realize I was doing what was safe. Okay. It was safe to do that. Nobody criticizes you back then.
Yeah.
So it was safe to do that. But it made me realize I wasn't doing what was best to try and win the game. I was right.
So that's how you became Riverboat Ron.
Exactly. That's a true story.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
Story.
John Madden made you Riverboat Ron.
That's part of the story because he tells me, Ron, you know better. You've played, you've coached, you've made these decisions, but you're making them because they're the safe thing, the easy thing to do. Well, now with analytics, that's the easy thing.
Yeah.
What's analytics say? How many times do you hear somebody come on the air and go, well, ESPN's analytics say this or CBS's analytics says that? The analytics doesn't tell you what happens if you don't do it. It only tells you if you do it. So the decision that you should make as a coach is the moment right to try to do it.
It's a fresh perspective.
Different perspective.
Exactly.
And it makes
baseball's different.
Right.
Because baseball, it's man against man.
Right.
Yeah.
Static.
This batter has faced that pitcher.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? All right? They've done it. So you have statistics like that. In the NFL, it's 11 guys against 11 guys. It could be 11 different guys the next time.
Uh-huh.
So what they've done with the NFL analytics is they've taken all this stuff and put it into one big pile. And then based on putting it all in one big pile, it says this is what you're supposed to do. Well, yeah, if you're 97% going for it on 4th and 1, you're 97% of the time you get it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that tells everybody you should go for it on 4th and 1. Okay, does everybody have a 6'6", 265-pound quarterback?
Nope.
Okay.
Not.
I had that situation one time in Carolina. And I let Kyle Allen try it, and Kyle Allen got stuffed. And everybody goes, we were 97%. What happened? I said, well, we were about 3 inches and 35 pounds lighter.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So there's something to it.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, you guys hear him. We're off and running here. We're joined by Chicago Bears legend Ron Rivera. Ron, you did all the national shows. Now you're in the Chicago den.
Now you're home.
This is cool. This really, I got here this morning. I got up at 4 o'clock, caught the 6 o'clock flight, got here, and when I got into the and this is really how I felt. I got into the terminal and I started walking out, and I saw some things that were familiar, and man, it got exciting again. And then somebody says, "Hey, Chico," and I turn around, and there's the old Bear fan guy had an old Bear hat on, and he recognized me, and it was really cool. And then I had an opportunity to walk around today. Went to lunch with a real good friend of mine that I've known a long time from Chicago, and it was awesome to be in town. It really is.
So you sound like you consider this home a little bit, even though you're from NorCal.
I do, because I was here for 17 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was born here. We have 2 kids. My daughter was born here. My son went to school around here, and junior high, elementary school, junior high. So, we had some pretty good roots. We really did. Stephanie and I loved this community, especially up north. We were up in the Vernon Hills, Libertyville area. Yep. It was phenomenal. I mean, and
pretty good memories here.
Yeah, there really are.
Yeah.
And I wear this. It's my mom's Super Bowl necklace. What it is, it's the face of the Super Bowl ring.
Oh, cool.
And as a player, you got an opportunity to get one and buy one, and that's what I did. I bought one for my mother, and I got one for my wife. And when my mom passed away, it was the only thing I asked her that if I could have, and she said absolutely. So right after she passed, they gave it back to me, and so I've worn it ever since for the last 2 years. So a lot of good memories every time I put it on.
With that said, was this a dream job? Was being the head coach of the Chicago Bears kind of always on your mind?
Well, the thing about if it ever happened, it would be full circle. Is really what it would be for me. I've always known that being a Bear is a lifetime thing. It really is. I went to Cal. I was a Bear, but I got drafted by Mike Ditka in 1984. Him and Jerry Venisi, they selected me, gave me the opportunity to come here and play. And for 9 seasons as a player, it was one of the greatest things I've ever encountered. The memories, the friendships, those things still go. I reached out to Matt Suey the other day. I saw a great article by Dan Pompei. I read it about him and Walter, and it just all it did was bring memories back. And quite honestly, I shed a tear about it. I really did. And then I called Jim Morris. He was my best friend on the team, and we had a great conversation. It was great to talk to Jim. And this summer I got to come to Steve McMichael's house for his induction, and saw about 25 guys from that teams, from different teams, not just the Super Bowl team, but from other teams. They were there, and it was really cool. There's nothing like it. I'm telling you, there really isn't.
When you say you're a Bear, you're a Bear for life, basically. Do you think, is that unique to Chicago, or is that just anybody who drafts you if you have those kind of memories, or is there something unique about the Bears organization? Because it does feel like there's so many of those guys that are like, I'm a Bear.
It is unique. It really is. First of all, this is one of the original franchises.
Yep.
It really is. And so its history is tremendous. It's very deep in the community. And then, being part of the '85 team was about as special as it gets. And then I was fortunate enough to be here for the 2006 team, with under Coach Lovie Smith, who gave me a great opportunity to be part of it again, and to go to the Super Bowl. Even though we didn't win it, it's still very special. It really is. So I've been very fortunate. I'm the only guy that could say, hey, I was there for 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so that was really a cool thing just to be part of.
Are you the only guy that can say that?
As a player and coach?
Yeah, player and coach. Yeah.
Is there a
It's like you in Virginia.
But yeah,
They're the only ones.
I'll tell you what, Mrs. McCaskey was tremendous. She really is, and it's an amazing person, because she loves everything about Chicago, and she loves everything about the Bears, and I was fortunate enough to have been around her as well.
Yeah, obviously, you lived the lore. We weren't alive for it.
Yeah,
we just hear from our dads.
But you know what's crazy about that is there's a lot of guys like you, and they know the history.
Oh yeah.
A real good friend of mine, Tom Marsham, who's a Chicago guy, I got invited to speak at Notre Dame's football clinic several years back, and so it was several springs ago. So we fly out and we come into Chicago. We go to dinner. couple of his usual places, just, and everybody's, Chico, and he looks at me and goes, see, they still know who you are. I said, no, that's great. Well, so we go to Notre Dame, we do the event, come back, and I said, hey, before we go, got to go to Lou Malnati's. Get me a deep dish.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we go in, we get a deep dish, we have a salad, we had the loose salad, everything, just the whole bit. And these young guys come up and they start talking football with me and everything. And my guy looks at me and goes, how the hell do they know who you are? They weren't even born. I said, hey, what year were you born? Don't say that. That makes me feel old. But 2000.
Oh, that's crazy.
I mean, these guys were 17, 18, 19-year-old guys.
That makes me feel happy because that's what I was going to ask if you get that, because in no disrespect to the other players, I'm not saying they rest on their laurels, but it's still been a parade for them. They're still doing radio in this town, still being highly regarded, but you created such a different path in the NFL where you coached for so long.
Well, and again, a lot of it was upbringing. I mean, being here, playing for Mike Ditka, being tutored by Buddy Ryan. Mm-hmm. Okay, I told a great story about how I started to learn football the right way, defensive football. And it was my rookie year. It was about the third or fourth game into my rookie career. And Buddy Ryan, during practice, used to stand about 40 yards behind the defense, and he would signal into plays to Singletary. Mike would call the defense, and we'd practice. And we'd go like 24 straight plays in a row on offense, 24 straight plays in a row on defense. And Buddy would stand back there, and he'd signal in the defenses. Mike would call them, and we'd go through the play. And so about the third or fourth game, I hear, hey, Chico, come here. So I go back there, and and he doesn't say anything for me the first few plays, just sitting there. So he signals in, and he goes, what I call? He said, 46 plus the formation. He said, okay, what's the formation? I said, red back, split. He goes, what's the call? I said, samurai. He goes, why? He says, because split backs mean that the backs are going to release out into the routes. They're going to check and release outside. There's going to be nobody on the inside to block Mike. Mike's going to have a clean shot at the quarterback. Oh, okay. So you are paying attention to meetings. Okay. So he does something else. He goes, what's the defense? I said, you got under 9. He says, why would I call under 9? Because you want Otis to kick the shit out of the tight end. Okay. And we're going to play an 8-man front to stop the run. He said, okay, good. So as I stood back there for the next a year and a half with him, every day I had to be back there with him. And every day he would talk out loud and he would ask me questions and constantly quiz me about stuff. And he was preparing me to play. Mm-hmm. Okay. And eventually ended up preparing me to be a coach in this league. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think I was very, very fortunate, very blessed to have been here and to be part of Mike Ditka's team and to have worked and played under Coach Buddy Ryan.
Were you the only guy to get that treatment? Do you think he saw something in you? It's like, this guy can be a coach. Like, this guy's got a brain on him.
I think so. I think that's what he saw because, I think he also knew that I would be Mike's. Because I was Mike Singletary's backup at one point too. And so it was one of those things that if I ever had to play, he wanted to make sure I was ready to play. And then lo and behold, against Detroit, I think it was like week 12 or 13 at the end of the 20 the 85 season. I was back there, and so I had to go into the game. Mm. And you gotta love Buddy. Chico, you're up. Samurai's down. Chico, before you go out there, Chico, if you make a mistake, I'll pull your ass out so fast.
I gotta say too, I love some of the nicknames on the 85 team. You got Chico, you got Guppy, you got Mongo, you got Butthead. There's just so many. So many good ones.
That team had a lot of personality.
Yeah.
And that's what separated us, and that's how we knew everybody was. And everybody's nickname has something to do with their personality. Yeah. I mean, like Mongo, and people, Mongo's the guy from Blazing Saddles. Okay, that's where Mongo comes from. Mm-hmm. Was Alex Karras is in there and he punches this horse that the horse falls down. That's where Mongo comes from. And Steve was also known as Ming the Merciless. I mean, his Dan Hampton was Danimal. And McMahon was Punky QB. Yeah. Singletary was Samurai.
Fridge.
Sweetness.
Sweetness. Yeah. Wilbur Marshall was Phenom.
They're really
it's everybody.
Loaded.
Nicknames.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny because I'm bad with names. I really am.
Yeah.
If you don't have a jersey on, for me to associate with your name, I struggle.
Yeah, you're just Rydell on the helmet.
Yes. And so, but that's what Buddy did. Buddy called you by your number.
I love when
Oh,
coaches
yeah.
do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But was there like a nickname giver or who? That
Oh,
just-
Buddy was the one. When Buddy gave you a nickname, it stuck.
Okay, so did he
right.
give you Chico?
Yeah. Well, what happened was his favorite TV show was Chico and the Man.
Okay.
Eddie Albert and Freddie Prinze were Chico and the Man. And so what happened was I was standing back there with Buddy one time during training camp. It just happened to be standing there with him. And Buddy said something and he kind of looked at me and he looked around and said, you know, you remind me of that guy on my favorite TV show, Chico. Well, I think it was Hampton who picked up on it right away and said, yeah, Buddy called you Chico, didn't he? Chico and the Man.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's I mean, it's crazy how much it's lived on.
Yeah.
And that 06 team too. Like that's my generation's.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about the 06 team more than anything else is it was one of those things that one day was not a good day in that game. It just
Fucking
really
weather.
wasn't. It was the only Super Bowl it rained the entire game ever. And unfortunately, we turned the ball over too many times that we just couldn't overcome that.
Quarterback had small hands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that the actual reason is small hands?
Probably. I mean, because
I
again,
mean, it
the
was
balls,
pouring.
you know, the balls weren't treated the way they're treated today.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know, and they didn't have the types of gloves that they had today too. You know,
Yeah.
where he could have wore gloves that might have helped him hold on to it.
Would have been a different situation. So the year before that, the 2005 playoff game against the Panthers, Steve Smith.
Oh my God.
Is that? Do you regret not doubling him?
No.
No.
If you go back and you look at that play, that one play, okay, because again, we played him earlier in the season and beat him pretty good. We came back, but if you look at that one play, that was supposed to be a slant. Okay? And if you watch, and I asked Jake Delhomme this, I said, Jake, that was a slant, wasn't it? It was supposed to be a slant. He said, yes. He said, and I was about to throw it, and then all of a sudden Steve went vertical.
Wow, he just broke it.
And I said, because if you look at Jake is going like this, and just slings it. I hope we all heard that on radio. He goes like he was going to throw it, and then he recocked his arm and just slung it.
Mm-hmm.
He was running. Charles Tillman had it read perfectly, and if he had thrown it, it would have been an intercept. It would have been a pick six. If you ever get a chance to watch that, I watched that tape over and over, and I kept saying, "What did we do wrong? I mean, we had it pegged."
Yeah.
And then I look at Jake and I see the double pump, and I said, "Oh, that wasn't on purpose." And I said, "Someday I got to find out." So I see Jake when I go to Carolina. First question I said, "You got to tell me something. That was supposed to be a slant. That wasn't a slug." Oh, he goes, "No, it wasn't. It was supposed to be a slant."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just good quarterback and receiver play.
That's exactly what that was, because Steve saw him jump it, and so instead of trying to force it through, he just took off, and
Snapped
sure enough,
second,
Jake saw it.
I know we can't show it, but will we be able to pull that up and see it? Is that possible?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. We'll just work on it. We'll keep rolling. I'd love to see it. And kind of walk.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy because it was red, and what we were in, I believe, if I remember correctly, where we were in single high, so we were either cover 3 or cover 1, but I think it was cover 1 man coverage with one high safety. And when he went to run the slant, Charles was coming from outside in through him. And like I said, if the ball gets thrown, it's intercepted. Instead, Steve just takes off and goes vertical. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how smart Steve was. He saw it, and he just broke it off, and he was counting on Jake seeing it, and sure enough, Jake sees it. Well, what happened was the idea was to push Steve towards Mike Brown. Okay. But because Steve ended up going out, he ran away from Mike, and Mike had no angle.
Damn.
He was so damn fast.
Yeah.
Too.
Yes, he was.
not
Oh my
catching
God.
Steve Smith.
Yeah.
He was electric to
He
watch.
was an awesome receiver.
Yeah.
He really was. He was one
Great
of the
football
tough.
player. Yeah.
toughest guys I've ever
Scary.
Yeah.
Scary is a good word too.
Yeah.
You say he's one of the toughest guys you've ever met?
I've ever been around.
Really?
I mean, mentally tough, physically tough, just a guy that didn't quit.
No bullshit.
No BS.
Yeah, that's how he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 2006 team, do you regret not giving them the opportunity, or I don't forget it was 05 or 06, not giving them the opportunity to break the 85 Bears record for points given up? You pulled them, they got pulled in the second half against Minnesota.
Oh, yes. No, I don't. Because the idea was to keep those guys prepared and ready to play.
Yeah.
That's what that was all about. I mean, again, records are one thing. but winning is the most important thing. And that's what the idea was. That was the whole thought process behind it. And I have absolutely no problem with that.
No, so it's like, whatever, we're trying to win. We're not trying to.
All right, how about this? We talked about 85. We talked about 06. You have to pick 3 linebackers total from each of those 2 teams. So you pick your starters. You can pick from any 3 guys from 06 or 3 guys from 05. Like, who is the best 3 Bears from either of those 2 teams?
I'm not answering that.
What about if we were playing a modern day offense or something? Like, is that?
No, you know what? It's interesting is because if you really do look at it, I mean, Urlacher and Singletary go without being mentioned. I mean,
Yeah.
they're automatics. The question is, who's the third guy?
Right.
And I honestly, as much as I love Lance Briggs, I lean towards Wilbur Marshall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I really do. Wilbur was known as Phenom for a reason. I mean, he was
Freak athlete.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the most unbelievable. And he got the nickname our rookie year during minicamp. I mean, he was just making play after play after play. I mean, we were in awe, all of us. I mean, shoot, I I was a rookie too. You know, Wilbur was number 1, I was number 2, right behind him. I can't do that. And it was crazy. I mean, I will tell you, I had another player like that I coached in Carolina named Thomas Davis.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 biggest freaks of athletes I've ever seen. I mean, Urlacher was a freak because he was so big and could move like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Wilbur Marshall and Thomas Davis, I'm telling you, are 2 of the greatest athletes I've ever been around that played linebacker.
Did you coach Kuechly? You coached
And Luke, yes, I coached him.
How is he compared to those guys?
Him and Mike Singletary could be connected at the hip.
Yeah.
They really
Wow.
could. They studied the game the same way. Although I will say Luke was a better athlete than Mike. He really was. I mean, but Mike willed himself into being a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so to me, those are the 2 of the best middle linebackers I've ever coached. I've ever been around. I mean, just phenomenal work ethic, studying, preparing, doing the things you needed to do to become a winner.
You've been around some linebackers.
Yeah.
I really have. I mean, very fortunate. I mean, I really have been very fortunate.
We have the play pulled up here. I'm interested to see this.
Well, of course, he starts it at the end of the play after he's scored. See?
Yeah.
Oh, he did. He pumped.
What was that? I also
That was because Charles tried to grab him.
Oh, okay.
he knew
There
he
it
was
is.
beat it.
Yeah.
Talking trash.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have a take that is probably crazy. I thought Mike Brown, if he wouldn't have gotten injured, was like on a path to be a Hall of Famer. He was my obviously Urlacher.
You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're absolutely right. If he doesn't get hurt during the 2006 season, we win the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now.
As much as I love Brian Urlacher, I thought that I would have made an argument that he was the best player on those defenses.
He
for a
was
split second.
well. I'll tell you right now, he was the emotional leader.
Yeah.
Right now, he was the emotional leader. He had this special knack too when he intercepted a ball that there was a good chance it was getting returned because he used to be a hell of a punt returner too, and he knew how to set those up. He would catch the ball, start a flow, and then he would cut back against it, and he was off to the races.
Yeah, the 2
That
walk-offs,
back in a
right?
row, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
Yes.
Cleveland and
that's how special he
49ers.
was.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how special he
Yeah,
was.
he was great.
What about
man.
Peanut? What, like the punch and everything?
Oh, yeah.
He, to me, I mean, if you watch him play, he's definitely not underappreciated, but I hope he definitely gets the love that he deserves.
I think he
He
gets
deserves
it
it.
locally,
Yeah.
but not
No,
nationally.
he'll get in national.
You think so?
Yes,
Okay.
because when you do something and you play at the level he did, and you do something that now everybody talks about, those people who vote are going to recognize his greatness. The thing that's really neat about him is he was also one of the really good big corners at the time. Big, long arm that you matched up against big receivers.
Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the guy that you put out there and say, hey, go get him.
Yeah.
Work against him. Do your thing. Again, great work ethic. Probably the sneakiest, diabolical sense of humor I've
That's fun.
Great story.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Great story.
Was that the most fun you've ever had coaching?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those teams.
Those teams. I mean, and not, Well, I'll say as a coordinator, I loved everything about being part of the team. But when I got to become the head coach of Carolina and we went to the Super Bowl in 2015, okay, one of the really neat things was how our guys were going through it. Remember, we were undefeated all the way up to week 15, and then we lose to Atlanta on some very questionable stuff. And it will always eat at me.
Really?
It really will. Yes, it really will. But what happened was you could sense the tension as we were working each week towards it. Okay, towards being undefeated, and as the season went on, I mean, it's kind of like, in Kansas City will go through it. If they continue to be undefeated, they'll get to a point where the guys will snap at each other every now and then. Well, I kind of felt it. And what I started doing is I started letting my coaches get up and talk to the team. So one week I asked Coach Shula, Mike Shula, if he would, speak. He says, sure. So he gets up there and right on point. It was one of the best things I've ever heard. He starts talking about his dad's team in '72 being undefeated. And they started to get tense and uptight too. So he's telling the story. He says, yeah, one day, the players could feel it. So one day he said, Dad goes into his locker room in his own office, and he in the shower, somebody put a baby alligator in there. So, and so Coach, he said Dad got really upset, and he runs into the team meeting room and he says, I don't know who the hell did this, but I'm gonna get to the end of it. I'm gonna figure out who it was, and you're gonna get in trouble. And then Larry Zonka was laughing out loud, and Coach Shula goes, and I don't know why you're laughing so hard, Zonk. You're probably part of it. He says, yeah, I was. He said, but just so you know, I'm the one who taped his mouth shut. So sure enough, 3 days later, I used to get in early, get a workout, 5:30, finish my workout, go to take a shower, and I go to walk in, and I'm stripped down. All I got is a towel, and I walk in, and there's this alligator in my freaking shower. Yeah. I'll show you the picture. I think I'm kidding. I'll show you the picture.
They keep his mouth taped?
No, there was no tape.
A little different situation.
Different situation.
Yeah. So you had...
Well, I want to hear that peanut story.
Okay, all right, yeah.
No,
Mike Brown.
that was a story. He's the one who did it.
Oh, it's Peanut.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Peanut. No, yeah. So I'm sorry. So what happens is I walk in. I throw the towel. I run out. I slam the door closed. I run out. I'm naked, and I grab another towel, wrap it around me, and I go into the players' locker room, and because I know he's in there, and I said, Peanut. And I see him standing there, and you could tell he knows I'm pissed off, and I look like that, and he was telling everybody what they had done. So they wanted him to film it. They wanted to put GoPros in my office too, which would not have been a good thing.
Yeah.
So so everybody comes back there with me, and I said, well, how are we going to get him out? And he says, well, Coach, and he opens the door. It was fake.
Oh my God, that is.
I'm going to find you the picture, because when you look at the picture, you can't tell. I mean,
That's amazing.
That's great.
But that was him. That was that.
Yeah,
that wasn't great.
He seemed like such a straight edge guy.
Yeah.
No, he's not. Don't fall for that.
Don't fall for it.
Don't whatever.
Because we interview him every year or so, and that's how he comes off. So next time we know, we're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely know now.
Yeah, he's sitting there listening to that Zonka story. The moral of the story is to stay loose. And he's like, I can't wait to put a gator.
Like Coach Ron's.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. Too.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
All right, what were we gonna say, Chief?
I was going to say, you had Cam Newton his rookie year.
Yep.
Did you do anything special, different to make his transition easier? Obviously, we've watched Caleb have his struggles here, especially the last few weeks. Is there something that you designed? Because he was offensive rookie of the year. He had a big year for you. What steps did you take to ensure his level of success that first year?
The biggest thing for us with a guy like him, and credit, I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Shula and to Rob Jasinski. Rob was our offensive coordinator, eventually became head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Mike Shula was our quarterbacks coach, eventually became our offensive coordinator and did a terrific job. They both did a terrific job. But when we were getting ready to draft Cam, we spent a lot of time going through stuff and doing all the kinds of stuff. And one of the things that we talked about doing was going down to Auburn and spending time with their coaching staff. and figuring out what does he do best and how does he do it, and take some of that and kind of marry it to what we did and how we do it. And so Mike and Rob go down there and they spend all this time with them and they come up with these ideas and they come back. And that's what happened. A lot of that stuff was set up for him.
Okay.
We weren't going to force him to do things that he wasn't good at. And to his credit, he worked at it. That was also the lockout year. So we didn't have mini camp. We didn't have OTAs, and we didn't have training camp. Oh, no, we did have, we did have training camp. The first time I met my Carolina Panthers was the day of training camp. The first day was the first time I met the whole team.
You weren't even allowed to talk to him, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, we couldn't. Once lockout started, nothing.
Right.
Nothing. We couldn't do anything. I went through the same thing in Washington. If we go up there, this thing called the pandemic shows up.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't get to see my whole team until training camp.
Huh.
So you go through that and you try to figure out what's the best way to handle him. And again, Rob and Coach Szynski and Mike Schuler came up with this great idea about doing these things like this. And to Cam's credit, he went down to MGI.
IMG.
Yeah. He goes down to IMG and he works there with their quarterback coach, who was Ken Dorsey,
Okay.
who had actually played for Rob Szynski at one time. So Ken knew exactly what Rob wanted to do. So he was working with Cam down there.
A little loophole a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, like, Cam coming from Auburn, he was always in the shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happened there was Kenny Dorsey never let him take a snap from shotgun. Every snap he had to take was from under center. So it would transition into our style of offense.
Yeah.
So he worked that and worked it. And the first time he took a shotgun snap was once he got to training camp. So like for 3 months, all he did was take snap from under center. And what happened was he became a real good 3-step drop passer. Get the ball out of his hands quickly, get the ball out of his hands. And so he learned that rhythm very quickly. And I mean, he assimilated so quickly to it, and it really showed in his play early on. Because some of the best throws he ever made were these quick 3-step, slants. Mm-hmm. And it just and when you're throwing to Steve Smith, that's pretty impressive.
2 questions on that. Is that the biggest fatal coaching error when you don't adapt to your personnel?
I think it is. I really do, because if you don't utilize what they do and do well, you have to find out what they do and do well.
Then what is it? Is it just coaches being like, hey, that's what I was taught. I don't really know how to adapt?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, that we always had to do way back in the day was you always had to go out and you had to clinic, work with other guys, talk to other guys. I used to do it a lot of times when I was going to the combines. I'd have a couple of young coaches that would call me and say, hey, Coach, can mind if, come by and talk? Sure, come on by. I did it for Mike Singletary. When Mike got into coaching, he and I would get together and we would talk. And Mike was always great because Mike knew so much, but there were also some other intricacies that he didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so he and I would talk about them too. And I'd learn from him and he'd learn from me, and we'd help each other. Mm-hmm. Leslie Frazier, another 85 Bear. Yeah. We do the same thing. We still do it. Leslie and I talk constantly about football. That's awesome. And you learn from each other and you grow.
So 2011, you get the job in January, then obviously you draft Cam. In July, your GM comes to you. He's like, "Hey, we just traded for Greg Olsen for the 3rd round."
Awesome, awesome
for you, not for us.
Awesome.
We're like,
Thanks.
Talk about the awesomeness and like your thought at the time, and
one of the greatest teammates I think that you could plug into a situation and say, "Hey, help this young quarterback grow and develop and become who he became." Mm-hmm. That's who Greg Olsen was, and Greg was so smart that Cam had so much to think about and go on that literally Greg could go to the line of scrimmage and turn to Cam and say something, bam, it would click, and the next thing you know, Cam's directing. It's like he's playing Madden. Mm. I mean, that's what Mike Schuler used to always tell me as a coach. It's like he's playing Madden. It's crazy. It's one of the craziest things. He gets up there and he sees something, and all of a sudden he changes it. I would remember be listening, and Mike would go, "What's he doing?" No, he's not. Yes, he is. He's going to do that. He did it. Oh my gosh.
It worked.
And it would work. Yeah. I mean, it worked more than it didn't. I remember one game specifically. We were playing Miami. Okay. And if anybody tells you can't convert a 4th and 21, they're wrong. We did.
Cam Newton.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we were trailing Miami, and we started getting things going in the 4th quarter, and we drive down, and Mike called a play in the red zone, and all of a sudden Cam's looking, and he checks, and he runs. Well, I think we call it plant. It's a counter step, counter step, plant, step, go, bam, we score. And that's when Mike was going, what's he doing? What is he doing? Oh, I know. Yes. And he did it, and we scored a touchdown. So comes the sideline, Mike goes over and talks to him. So I go over to Mike because I was listening to the call. I said, Mike, what happened? He goes, Coach, they showed the same defense that we saw last week, and we had that play in for that defense. Cam remembered it, called it, and that's how we scored.
Wow.
I mean, that's who that guy is.
That's how good, yeah.
Yeah, that's how good. But Mike said, Coach, it's like he's playing Madden out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. All right, one more quick break. I want to talk to you guys about Vanderhagen. You got to make the switch from a cartridge razor to a safety razor today. I had to use a cartridge razor not that long ago to clean up my neck beard. I got a nick. So safety razors allow you to get a closer, more comfortable shave. The use of one blade razors help prevent those nicks and cuts I was talking about while making your skin feel smoother than ever. The best part, these blades cost as little as $1 a piece and last anywhere from 3 to 5 shaves. This will save you thousands of dollars over the years compared to the cost of cartridge razors. The blades are ice-tempered stainless steel blades from Germany, so you know they're good. They're great at engineering stuff over there that are sharp enough to give you the perfect shave. Ready to step up your shaving game? Get the smoothest, closest shave with our single blade and shave butter combo. Say goodbye to nicks and irritation and hello to a shave that's almost too smooth to handle. Get a shave so smooth it should come with a warning, perfectly close, incredibly soft. This is how real men should shave. So everybody has a Target or a Walmart near them. That's where you're going to find your Vanderhagen safety razor today. So get out there, find it. And if you're serious about your grooming game, hit that follow button. It's at Vanderhagen to stay in the loop with the latest shaving tips, product drops, and exclusive giveaways. Whether you're mastering the art of the close shave or just looking to keep it fresh, our Instagram is where the best in men's grooming comes to life. Join the community, level up your shave, and keep your style sharp. Again, check out your local Target and Walmart to get yourself a Vanderhagen safety razor today. Vanderhagen.com. Now back to Ron. And the other thing, I was like going through your history with Carolina. You had this a few times where you got off to these kind of bad starts, and then you start 1-3 one year, you go on a run, win the division. You started 3-8-1, somehow rally, go on and win the division. How do you turn a team around? Because things feel bad here now, and it's like we want a little hope. So how do you keep everybody together to go on a run like that?
Well, what we had an objective.
Okay.
And it's the same thing that I went through my first year in Washington. There was an objective. It was a bad division that year, and why not us? Okay, why not us? And you sit there and go, look, there's an opportunity to get into the playoffs. But if we take them one at a time and give ourselves a chance. So what we did was we started making our players focus in on the one at a time mentality. This is the most important game we'll play all year, guys. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's the one we're about to play. Mm-hmm. Let's stay focused on that. Let's prepare for just that. Don't worry about anything else. You can't control anything that's happened in the past. You got no chance. It's already done. But you can most certainly impact your future by taking care of now. Let's go out and win this one. That's way next week will be just as important.
So I don't know if how much you've watched the Bears this year, but in Chicago, you know how rabid the fan base is. It feels like something is turning. It feels like the locker room is almost gone from Eberflus. Is there a certain moment as a coach where you can tell like the locker room's starting to change, and what are those moments?
You know, the hard part for a coach when you lose a couple of games that you could have won or should have won is not having everybody on the same message. You know, you want everybody to understand that, hey, sure, we've had a setback, but you know what? Let's get going. Let's get rolling. Let's do the things that we need to do. Let's focus in on what's important, not what's interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's interesting what happened. I get it. Okay? That's interesting. Now the most important thing is getting back on track, figuring out how we can come together and play football to win.
What about when there's a specific instance like the Hail Mary against Washington where Stevenson's talking to the crowd, chirping the crowd, and then doesn't hit his assignment? It seems like there's a lot of controversy about how Eberflus disciplined him. What would you have done in that situation?
Well, I'm not going to second guess the coach and say he should have done this, he should have done that. I said, but to me, the one thing more so than anything else was take the responsibility, end it right then and there. Because again, one of the best things that a person can do is when you make a mistake, when something happens, step up, take the responsibility, take the hit, and then go forward. Okay, because too often everybody worries about who to blame and not how to fix it. That's the most important thing, is getting it corrected. That's the truth. And it used to piss me off constantly when I'd be up there and they'd say, well, whose fault was it? I said, you know what? It's our fault. Why? Because there's 65 plays that we could have handled and made something happen the right way.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the truth of the matter. It didn't come down to that last play, okay? So we're all culpable. And that, at the end of the day, is the truth.
Yeah.
Because this is a team game. This is the greatest team game in the world, in my opinion, okay? Why? Because all 22 guys on the field have something to do, okay? They're not back, near the goal standing around, all right? They're not, way out on this field when they know the ball's being pitched so he can't hit it over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have something you have to do.
Everyone's got an
Every single play.
Every play.
Yep. How would so, like Ryan said, I don't know how much you're watching the Bears right now, but a receiver just signed a big deal before the season started. I know you don't want to throw any players under the bus. He seems to be loafing big time right now. How would you handle something like that? And I'm saying loafing on the field in the middle of the game while plays are going on. He's not running sharp, crisp routes. He's walking off the field in the middle of the play. Seems that there might be a diva problem, at least from my fan perspective. How would you handle
I think the biggest thing everybody got to understand is first of all, you have to know the circumstances, have to know the situation, injury situation. That's always a question there. Guys go out and try to perform and do the best they can. There are certain situations and circumstances that dictate some other things. But again, to me, it's always about sitting down and having conversations with players as coaches. When I was a coordinator, and it happened in San Diego when I was with the Chargers, we had a situation, and it was one of those things where I can remember the timeout, and I can remember going to the players and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what they've shown. It's going to happen. Whatever you do, don't get yourself caught up in the line, faking the blitz, because what's going to happen is as soon as you go to fake the blitz, the back is going to go hot to the flat, and Roethlisberger will hit him with it. Well, they come out, they break the huddle. First thing our guy does, he starts to show inside. He's showing, okay? And just as he's showing, Roethlisberger looks at the back. The ball gets snapped, and the back went fast to the flat. Our guy turned to get out, and he ran into one of his teammates. Catches the ball, scores touchdown. So I'm visibly upset, and I just, said a few choice words, and it became personal. Okay, I didn't think it was personal, but the player took it that way. And the one thing you should never do is anything you do, anytime you have a conversation with a player about something, you can't allow it to become a personal issue, or if he thinks it's personal. And so the player didn't talk to me for a little bit. Finally, I said, come into my office. So he comes to my office, we sit down, we talk. And he said it to me, he says, Coach, you got personal? I said, no, I didn't. I was mad. Yeah, I was mad. I said, but do you understand why I was mad? He said, yeah, but I felt personal to me, Coach. I said, you know what then? So the next day I got in front of the defense, just said to the guys, hey, I got to apologize. Apparently I overreacted. I said a few things and it was taken the wrong way. But understand, guys, it's never personal. What I want to do is get across just how important it is. And so if you have issues with players, something like that, to me it's always pull them aside, treat them like men, and talk to them. Mm-hmm. Find out what's going on. Find out what's triggering them.
Yeah.
This team has got a lot of good football players.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, it does.
And there's a lot of things going on, a lot of expectations, and there's a lot of pressure when that happens too. I mean, there really are. I mean, you can put the best thing that could have happened to Jaden Daniels was being the second pick.
Yeah.
Okay, because how many people expected Caleb from day one to play exactly like Jaden is right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll be honest, I was one of them. I like Jaden, I really do, but I also liked Caleb and got a chance to really watch him a lot. Just seeing him play and just thinking, God, he's got it. He's going to be a guy. And then all of a sudden, he has a slow start. Jaden has this explosive start, and so there's so much pressure on this one individual, and then start winning some games, and I love the fan base. They get excited, and next thing you know, the pressure just mounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to when you were at DC, you left that season. It was reported because of the contract negotiations. It just didn't work. And I know you have great respect for Virginia, but the Bears, at least to the fans, are known as a team who won't pay for top-notch coaching. Is that the thought process out there from the coaching world? No,
it's not. It really isn't. It's funny how perception and way people look at things and stuff like that. And the truth of the matter was, I wasn't hired by Lovie Smith. Okay, I was hired by the GM that was there. And so what this was, it was an opportunity for Lovie to hire his guy, to give his guy the opportunity, which I had nothing but respect for, because again, this is a business. It's not personal. And I appreciated and understood that. And then when I became a head coach, I understood it even more. That there are some things philosophically that could be different. You know what I'm saying? And so because of that, this was his opportunity. Jerry's the one who hired me, okay? And because of that, I think, him and Lovie had, they basically come and said, well, hey, listen, he's got a 3-year deal. Let's go through the 3-year deal.
So it wasn't anything like
No, because I was offered a contract at one time, and I said, look, let's wait till we get through with the season, see what happens.
Okay, so it's not like, because like you said, you're texting Leslie, breaking down film and everything, and I saw Gruden has like a fired coaches academy that they all break down film. So there's not like a narrative out there amongst coaches that like, oh, the Bears are cheap, they're not going to pay a coach.
No.
Okay.
Is there any narratives out there about the Bears that you could just squash right here off the top of your head?
Or ones that are true.
Well, I will say this. In my time with the Bears, I've always felt like we've always had what we've needed to have.
Okay.
I really do. Okay. I know they don't interfere with coaching. That I know. Okay. I've been in those meetings, and they don't. And they don't come and tell you who to draft.
And you've probably been in situations where they did, I assume?
Oh, yeah. I've been around a few where it's been intimated that, God, that guy looks really good. He'd look really good in one of our uniforms.
Oh, that's got to be so bad. It's like, leave it to the football guys, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part about it, because again, you gotta remember who the owner is. At the end of the day, I grew up in a military family, so I've always, you work for that person, okay? You never question that person publicly. So that's why I've always, done the things that I've done and done them the way I've done them, is because that's the mentality I grew up with. I saw it with my father, the way my dad was an officer, but he answered to a higher rank. And so there was always that chain of command, so to speak. And I was always taught that at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. We get to a certain point and I take it. And that's just the way it is.
As far as the future, you want to get back into the game, or what's the?
Well, I know this. When I was in Carolina, it was phenomenal. I mean, we had a great run. We had a 9-year run there, and I still think if Cam never hurts that shoulder, he could still be playing. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the most phenomenal athletes I've ever been around. Smart football player, understood the game. And I was fortunate enough to, I was coach of the league, coach of the year twice. Yeah. And you don't get stupid overnight. So if there's an opportunity, I'm most certainly going to look at it.
Well, what about this though? I'm very interesting as well. There is a narrative in the league right now that if you want to win, you got to have an offensive-minded coach.
Very true.
Let me see. Well, I think right now, there is a study that is out there.
Okay.
That defensive coaches, head coaches, with young quarterbacks, have had better success bringing those young quarterbacks around.
Well, Chicago is bucking that trend right now.
So there is a study about it though that does show they do, and the guy I point to right now is Dan Quinn.
Yeah, man, he's done a phenomenal.
He's fantastic.
He has.
Is your resume updated by chance?
Can we keep you here?
Yeah, in this city.
I'll tell you what, guys.
Round 3.
That's something that can't be talked about.
I know.
It's not fair to the guys.
I know. We're idiots. We have to say that.
Yeah. Making jokes.
Yeah.
Was there anything over? I mean, you've been in football literally your entire life. Has there been a point where you're like, man, this game is like not the same game that I grew up playing and coaching?
It's not.
Was there a specific instance where you're like, or like a quarterback getting hit that was a complete soft penalty or something? Where you're like, this isn't the football.
Well, that's one of them.
Yeah.
It has changed, but again, it is about player health and safety. That really is truly a concern because the guys today are bigger, faster, stronger, a little bit different. And so the equipment's gotten better, and the equipment is supposed to be there to protect you, not to be used as a battering ram. That's the other thing guys have got to understand too. And the league is really doing everything it can to try and make it a safer game. I mean, I don't know how many people like the new dynamic kickoff, but I think it's brilliant. I really do.
I hated it at first because it looked weird on TV. I'm completely used to it now and going.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly how I felt when I first saw it. I kept thinking to myself, because I was on the competition committee a couple of years ago, and we were looking at it, and I kept going, oh, this ain't gonna fly. This ain't gonna fly. But then all of a sudden, you started seeing guys bringing the ball out,
right?
And guys, making these plays, and then guys popping up like nothing happened. There's still been a couple of tough hits, but not like they used to be
when they have 40 yards
of
4.3 speed running.
Right.
Well, and it's just another competitive play where it just was before it was just everything was a touchback.
Right.
Yeah.
Now there's that possibility that ball just may pop. So there's still that excitement, and really the truth of the matter is, it was done because part of it was keeping the kickoff in the game. It was one of those things. Team score, kick the extra point. Well, guess what? Everybody's gonna go to the restroom, get a beer. They know.
Yeah.
But now you can't.
It's like an extra running play.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. And that's exactly it, because it's designed like, if you watch some teams that are really good at, that's the biggest thing is the trap blocking. But you got to be careful, because if you blindside on the trap, that's a flag.
Yeah.
So there's
not my football. Not my football.
Yeah. What about like the culture of, because there's so much has been made about young kids today where they're a little bit softer, and you can't just get in their face and chew them out or punish them the way that you would have 20, 30, 40 years ago. Did you see that towards the end of your career versus like, hey, 20 years ago, I would have been able to rip this guy and there's no problem.
Less practice time and everything.
Yeah.
I think you have to get past certain things with these young guys today. And the big thing is, quote unquote, the disrespect and the anxiety that's created by expectations and demands. Okay, you've got to learn to discuss and talk to them about certain things. About hey, this is what's expected. This is why you're here. This is what you need to understand. Okay, and you can't get at them like like
how Dick might have.
Well, I'll give you a great example. Buddy Ryan, when he used to grade tape, when your technique was bad, it wasn't, hey, that's bad technique. It was, that's horseshit. No, but you understood that that's what he was meaning. He wasn't trying to hurt you. He was just that was the way he explained. That's just bad. That's just bad technique. And when you made a mental mistake, is boy, that is dumbass. And that was a mental mistake. So once you understood the lingo and what he was trying to tell you, it makes sense. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was old school. That's how old school these guys were. That those words were not derogatory as much as they were colorful explanations of your technique, of your mental ability to think through that.
Yeah.
That's the best way I've ever heard.
And now if you tell a kid that, they're probably crying into their Instagram selfie or something, right?
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's made this game very difficult is social media. Mm-hmm. Is that these guys play to that. They really do. And I get it, because you see, it's about, being recognized and getting
brand.
And all that. Yeah. I mean, brand, that's the word that I think is very, hey, you got a brand.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing. That really is.
You got a brand?
Do I? Oh, yeah, I got, absolutely. Riverboat Ron. Riverboat Ron. I had a great story about that. Okay, so you know how that came about. So after seeing John Madden, my third year, we play New York at home. We're playing the Giants. in our first drive, I went for it twice on 4th down. The last time I went for it was 4th and 1, a goal to go, and Michael Tolbert hammers it in. We score. I did it again later in the game on a 4th down situation. We get the first down, win the game. We beat them pretty good. 30, I think it was like 33-0 or something like that. So then the following week we go up against Minnesota, and I did the same thing. I went for it twice in the first drive. In fact, the second time it was 4th and 3 from the goal line, and we ran a shovel pass to Mike Tolbert. He hammers it home. So after the game, they're asking the fans, hey, what did you think of Coach Rivera going for it on 4th down? Oh, that's pretty cool. So they finally get to this one guy and says, I'll tell you what, that old Coach Rivera, man, he was just like a riverboat gambler out there. That old Riverboat Ron, that was crazy. And that's how it started.
Was there ever a time when you were just like hot at the craps table and you're just, it's 4th down and 3rd or 21 with Cam or anything, and you're getting cocky. You're like, man, I just can't get stopped on 4th down. And then you go for it, you get stuffed, and you're like, I really fucked that up. Any situation?
Oh yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, you do. You do feel it sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'll tell you right now, if you watch Dan Campbell, that's how he does it. He does it every time. He's convicted to it. And I'll tell you what, this is the first time I ever did it. And we hammered home and we scored. Cam Newton came to the sideline and looked at me and said, Coach, thanks for believing in us. Thanks for trusting.
Fuck yeah. I like that.
And that was crazy. I mean, because the way he said it just gave me all the confidence in the world. So,
Yeah.
It's crazy to hear that someone
That's
like
awesome.
all the success and like the long history, big resume, and hearing a player, a rookie, if he was
it was his
rookie
third year.
or third year, saying that, and a coach needs confidence too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to be at the point where when you do something, you can't hesitate when it's time. You can't sit there and go, all right, let's go for it. Okay. Or
Because then they don't believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you're on the headset and I always love watching Luke Kuechly when he was on the headset. He'd sit there and he's giving you the look like, what do you want us to do? And it's like, you got to give them answers quickly, because when you give them answers, they walk in this. It's like watching quarterbacks call a huddle. Okay, and I used to tell quarterbacks, young guys, it's your posture, it's your body language. Okay. All right. Hey, let's go split right. 24 power on break. Okay. A lot of confidence there. Mm-hmm. Hey, watch good quarterbacks and look how they talk to everybody in the huddle. They look at the guys, and they look at each guy and they talk about each thing. Okay. Split right. 34 power. Let's go. Let's get it. I mean, that type of confidence, that guys buy into that stuff.
Yeah, that matters.
Yeah.
It really does.
34 power is like my favorite play. Yeah.
Give it
But
to me, baby.
but when you
Give it to
talk
me,
to
baby.
guys in that fashion, you show the confidence. Man, they get it. They go with it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. That's all part of coaching. It's all part of leadership. Quarterbacks that step in the huddle, linebackers that step, DBs that talk about man coverage. Mm-hmm. Man, when you hear that, hey, you got him this week? I got him, Coach. Go ahead, call me. Put me on that island. I want to be Gilligan. Okay, cool.
See ya.
Oh, we'll give it to you. Coach, you're the man. Thank you so much for
This was a
spending
lot
some
of
time
fun.
with the
Awesome.
Chicago boys.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you.
Well, hey, guys, I
football
appreciate
guy.
it. It's really cool. It really is. And hey, it's been a pleasure to have been part of this community. It really has. And I've enjoyed it. And anytime I get an opportunity to come by and visit folks here in Chicago, it's great.
Yeah.
It was good.
Open door
Overseeing
policy.
us.
Yeah.
Well,
We just like talking football. So
Yeah,
it was
too,
great to have you in here.
no, appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you.
85. None of us were alive for it, but like you said, that that's part of my fiber being from here, and my dad
It's
dad
handed
called
down.
me 20 minutes before
Yeah.
the interview started to see what was up, just shoot the shit. I'm like, yeah, I got to go. I'm about to interview Ron Rivera. He's like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
And my first jersey ever was a Willie Galt jersey I bought for $5 at a garage sale.
There you go.
I
I still have it, actually.
I
do,
saw Willie Galt at a charity event. He still looks fast.
Fast Willie, yep.
bet.
He's the original Fast Willie.
dude's what, 62, 63?
He's, I
still
looked,
looks
he's 60,
fast.
yeah.
Oh my God, he still looks fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He really does.
That's awesome. Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up here?
No,